Hello and welcome to the last word on Spurs. We hope you're keeping very, very safe and well. Thank you so much for joining us for quite literally instant reaction to Tottenham Hotspur beating Leeds United comprehensively on the last day of the Premier League season. Of course, in helping relegate Leeds from the Premier League, and Spurs signing off on what's been, let's be honest, a dismal season, but with a positive victory. Lots to get into in this last one on Spurs. I'm joined by the brilliant Lee McQueen, the returning Patrick Tyrant, and a superb music singer-songwriter Chris Oystler back on Last Word on Spurs. Just a bit of housekeeping before we get underway, of course, that we're delighted to be sponsored by the Beavertown Corner Pin. That, of course, is the Beavertown bang opposite our South Stand. Now, of course, as always with Beavertown, it's going to be very, very busy there across the summer and in the build up to next season. So make sure you get yourselves down there for all to come of Beavertown-related information. Right, let's get into this show. Spurs securing themselves, you would say, I don't know what to say in relation to a finish of a Premier League season where, let's be honest about it, it wasn't the most prettiest. I think we're all glad to say that finally it is over. So, Lee, if I can come to you, bud, to open up this show, if Lee can hear me okay. Lee's Wi-Fi, it'll be testing on this show. So we're going to give it a go. Lee, I'm going to come round to you if I can to open up this show. Really, you would say the day belongs to Harry Kane's. Words cannot describe how wonderful a footballer he is. 2 fantastic goals, and assist as well that ends the season on 30 goals. Lucas Moura of a late goal to end his Spurs career perfectly. But what we do know is Spurs will not be playing any form of European football. Lee, give me your summary on the back of that victory up at Elland Road.
Well, good evening, everybody, viewers, listeners. Good morning, good evening, good night. As Patrick will say, of course, wherever you're listening or watching, I don't want to talk too much about the game, essentially, or the season, really, because it's been rubbish. But what I do want to talk about, of course, is Harry Kane. And as you just teed it up there, Rick, absolutely phenomenal guy, phenomenal season in what's been a poor season, actually a poor team. Another 30 plus goals in the Premier League, which is unbelievable. I think you'll probably got the stat, but I think Harry Kane's the only guy to score 30 Premier League goals twice and not win the Golden Boot, because in front of him this year he's got the cyborg, which is Erling Haaland, and before he had Mo Salah, which is on fire. So absolutely amazing. Great for Lucas at the end of the day to sign off with a bit of a memory. And I don't know how I feel, in terms of the European football. I wanted, obviously, Champions League, like we all did. That ship sailed a long time back. Europa League I would have taken, gladly. Would have definitely wanted Europa League. That ship sailed because we're poor. And then Europa Conference League could have been an offer, but we deserve what we got. And I think, quite frankly, Aston Villa, Unai Emery, the way he's turned that club around since he turned up has been absolutely brilliant. And they deserve it. And our form over the last 10, 11, 12 games has been absolutely shocking.
It has been. Yeah, most certainly has been. You can't deny the fact the form has been really, really poor for sure. I think Lee, maybe carry on talking there. Lee, if you are, mate, we can't hear you. Hold on, I'm trying to unmute Lee. Lee, we got you back? Did we cut you off there shortly? We will try and get back. I think I say Lee's connection might be a bit testing. So what we are going to do, we're going to come around to Pat. Pat, Spurs, in relation to the finish of the Premier League season, 8th place, 22-23 season. We finished 11 points off the top 4. We know for certain no European football. Give me your reflections, Pat. You've finally overseen a win on Last Word on Spurs. I'm sure you'll say it's on the back of what's been a very much forgettable season. How would you sum up that victory today, Pat, and the context of what it means in the overall season?
Yeah, so first and foremost, we did it. I'm on Last Word on Spurs after a win. Oh my God, it's only taken about 3 months, so it's crazy. And that just goes to show how bad we've been. I'm relieved that the season's over. It's a mixed bag, isn't it? Because one side of me is actually thankful that we didn't finish in the Conference League. I would rather the new manager, whoever that may be, the new crop of players, the director of football, we have a season where we can just focus on the league and the domestic trophies. So 8th in that spot, in that sense, can be a blessing in disguise. But also when I look at it as a fan of a club who is supposed to be a big club, You know, you want to see your club finish up as high in the league as possible. Champions League football should be a minimum for Tottenham, and pushing on and trying to win something. Obviously, when you can't get Champions League football, then you want to play Europa League. And if you don't make Europa League, you at least the Conference League. I know it's a bit of a Mickey Mouse tournament at the moment. Even the name conference, they need to kind of change that. And kind of it's the third tier of European football, but it's still a trophy. And we didn't even finish there. But we, like Lee said, we finished where we deserve to finish. I'll take 8th through gritted teeth. If we can actually use this as a moment to push on, hopefully this is that sliding doors moment, or the realization where Daniel Levy realizes that unless you actually back the club properly, pick a manager, actually back his plan, have a director of football where everything's, you know, co-aligning, this is what's going to happen. Like, we've papered over the cracks on many a season, finishing where we sometimes can't believe we finish. This year, there's no papering over the cracks. We finished 8th. We definitely look like the 8th best team in the league. Defensively, we've been shambolic. 63 goals we shipped in. We couldn't even keep a clean sheet again. I know Leeds obviously had to fight for it, but they're a poor team, as we can see. Can't keep a clean sheet no matter who we play against. And ultimately, we deserve to finish where we finish. So how I feel, it's been a shambles. It's been a shit show. It's been horrible. As a fan, if it wasn't for the fact that I'm so in love with the club, there have been many a time where I actually felt like not going to games, switching off the TV. It's like we're glutton for punishments. We put ourselves through it week in and week out, sometimes knowing that it's not going to get better. Thankfully, today it did get better. Today, a 4-1 result against a poor team, that's the kind of level you expect from a good side. We put them to the sword pretty much at every opportunity. And today, for the first time in a long time, I actually feel quite satisfied after the win. I know it's the end of the season, so I'm a bit like, you know, we should have done this before. But at least today I can step away feeling a bit positive, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Most certainly, for sure. Chris, love to have you back on Last Word on Spurs. Answering a very, very late rallying call, I must say. Our thoughts go out to Crackers, bless him. Crackers were meant to be with us tonight, but due to a very, very late minor hiccup, which he will share, I'm sure, when he's back on next week or week after, the wonderful Chris Oystler stepped up for us, and my God, we really appreciate it. Such a shame, Chris. Our players haven't stepped up throughout this season. Obviously, the context of the results and the way they've gone today means that it's no European football for Spurs for next season, which means there's really no excuse to go all out, you would say, for those domestic cups. And, you know, it's the first time since the 2010 season Spurs have had no European football whatsoever. So over a decade. And look, many will have their thoughts about what they feel about going out and obviously not having any form of European football. But I think this is now a real opportunity to really take stock. We're going to have 30-plus players coming into the start of next season when all those loanees return. And we need to have that new director in football in place that's going to not only bring better quality players, but also try and navigate a number of outgoings for Tottenham over the course of the summer. And that's before you can get onto the managerial search. So give me your thoughts, Chris, on that win today and overall the context of what it means for the season.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, good evening, everybody. Good morning, listeners, tomorrow. And thank you once again, Rick, for having me back on. It's an absolute pleasure again. I mean, wow. First of all, thank God the season's over, right? I mean, I'm celebrating the end of the season. Got myself a knuckle here, boys. Cheers. But also, like, what's that feeling? Haven't won a game in so long. It feels so weird. I think we've all felt so detached and numb. It's just nice to feel some sort of positivity. Am I right? Like, Pat, we've both had our first win on here now, mate.
Salute.
Mad.
Salute.
Like, I mean, yeah. What I don't even know what to say about this season. Like, I'm just so happy it's over. Like, water under the bridge. Let's just hope the board learn from it and pick. You know, we appoint the right people to go forward. I mean, there's such a big job, isn't it? Like, such a big job. Yeah. The next manager needs to be on it. Like, we need to rebuild, clear out, I don't know, like 10 players at least. And then we need a long-term project. We need to commit. We need someone who's willing to be here, who wants to be here, build from the ground up and spend some time. I mean, as far as European football is concerned, I think obviously I want us to be in the Champions League. We all do. We all want to finish as high as we can. But at the end of the day, we ended where we deserve to be. Like, we were shit this year. So, I mean, 8th, I think probably horribly to say, rounds off where we should be. And I think having no European football is probably a good thing for the new manager. Like, having that time to work with the team week by week, to actually put the time on the training ground and build together as a team to try and actually win some games, like as a start. Like, I mean, this is such a strange thing that this is such a weird, good feeling that we've actually won a game. Like, this should be bread and butter, you know? Especially against relegation teams. Like, it's mad.
Yeah. I mean, the thing I would say is that at times we were totally ruthless. You could argue and say how poor Leeds were, and I definitely would acknowledge that. I mean, Lee, to come round to you, I know you wasn't a massive fan of the Europa Conference League, and therefore I think going into today, you wouldn't have minded the fact of missing out of Europe entirely. But when it is quite damning, the fact that Spurs are failing to qualify for Europe for the first time since the 09-10 season, so over a decade, put it into context, Lee, do you think for you're comfortable with that, or would you have at least wanted the manager to come in and have some form of European football to spread across, like I said, what is going to be quite a big squad, 30 plus players when they do come back from loan? We're going to try and unmute Lee.
Is he gone?
We've got him. Yep.
Is my connection any better now?
We've got you, bud. We've got you.
Just
we've got you.
I don't know if you can hear me. It's a bit of it's like our season. My internet. I just want to say I'm personal hotspot, and the Wi-Fi in this house is terrible. I'm only on 3G as well. Through there's 5 different mobiles in it I've tried. So if it don't work, it don't work. I'm afraid. Can you hear me, Rick?
No worries, bud. We've got you, bud. We've got you.
Not really.
We can hear you. We can hear you.
We can hear us. We've got you. I don't think you can hear us.
Well, I'll talk about. Okay. I'll carry on. So look, sorry about that, viewers and listeners. So look, I mean, here's the thing. I think it was a shock to nothing. You know, the reality of the situation is if we'd have qualified for the Europa Conference League, got 7th, if Villa had messed up, like I said in the intro, I'm not sure whether you heard the intro, look, Villa deserve it better than us, right? They've had a better season. Business end of the season is where it counts. Arsenal bottled the league in the last 10 games of the season, and Tottenham bottled, well, you could even say top 4. I mean, when Conte left, that ran 58, 59 days ago, we were in the top 4. I mean, you couldn't make this stuff up. So we've only got ourselves to blame. I don't want to beat the club up with a stick around the Europa Conference League or not. It was very torn. Lots and lots of people wanted it. Lots and lots of people didn't want it. The reality is, like Chris said, we are where we are. We didn't get it. It didn't hurt Chelsea when they finished 10th and then won the league the year after with Antonio Conte. It didn't hurt Arsenal when they finished a couple of times, finishing 8th. I think we deserve it. We deserve to finish outside the European places. We deserve to have a real good look at ourselves as a football club and change something, properly change something. And we deserve it. You know, if we'd have got some sort of European football, it would have papered over some of them little cracks. And it's not right. We don't want that to be papered over. We want to make sure, the league table never lies. At the end of the day, that is something that never lies. And we are where we are. So I'm actually looking forward to really trying to rebuild this club now. From what happens from this point forward, because there's no excuses now. There's no midweek games. There's no travel disruption. There's no this. There's no that. It's literally, if you want to win a trophy, you've got 3 opportunities. You've got the Premier League, which we laughed out of the room. You've got the FA Cup, which some of us still might be laughed out of the room, and then you've got the League Cup as well. And that's your strategy. You're forced. So let's rebuild and really have a look at it. When you say 30 odd players, it's 37 first team registered players, 37 that we've got looking at, and we've got the likes of Tunga and Dembele, we've got the likes of Giovanni Lo Celso, Reguilon, people that we've probably forgotten about. Do you see what I'm saying? Harry Winks, Joe Roden, so there's a massive job, and actually quite an exciting job. When you're trying to rebuild that in the middle of a season, it's virtually impossible. But now it's somebody to come and own. Does that make sense? To come in and say, well, this is what our vision of our plan, this is our football club, this is where we're going to go and what we're going to do. And hopefully everybody will get on the same page and start to drive that forward. So I think that it was, regardless of if the question was, did I want Europa Conference League? I didn't really want it, if I'm honest. And that's not being an arrogant Spurs. Some may say it is, right? Some may say it is. I just don't think we're equipped to go on 4 fronts. I do not think we're equipped. You can argue the toss with me if you like. I just do not think that we're equipped to go on 4 fronts of trophies or try to win 4 competitions. And we need to set out our strategic stall to say, if we want to get this club back on a really good foundation, on an even footing for us to start to build on, then what better way to focus specifically on domestic matters and build the club from there? And I think that's what we've got to do, Rick.
Yeah, listen, Matt, just so you know, your connection's absolutely fine, bud. You've seemed to have really brightened up, sharpened up, like the way Spurs ended the season, really. Shame it wasn't like that through the other 37 games, but there you go. Pat, come around to you. Look, I mean, a lot of big debate is being made, of course, of the fact we can't get carried away. We've beaten a Leeds United side that were, look, in the context of today, very, very unlikely anyway to stay up. There was always going to be gaps to have to probe that defence and break them down. But as Lee mentions there, the fact of having no European football for over a decade and the fact of a new manager coming in, they've got, as Lee said, those kind of building blocks a week in between to really work with the squad, get them ready. I mean, Conte always said when he was here that having that week in between was really good for him to be able to navigate a plan, navigate a selection that would work. Do you think now, Pat, this is actually more of an attractive opportunity now to a manager by not having some form of European football?
It depends which way your bread is buttered. I mean, like Lee, I've been from notion after we lost 3-2 at home to Bournemouth on the 15th of April, so quite a while away. I could see that we were literally sliding down a slippery slope. And I called it back then and said, I'd rather finish outside the European spot so we can really focus and go again next year. At that time, I got a lot of stick for that. But as the games have transpired and we've seen where a lot of people are now leaning towards that. Some managers would want European football, but I do think we need a manager to come in that really wants to be here. Like Chris said, really wants to stake his claim, make this place a home, make it a happy home. Not a manager who we feel is going to be volatile and every 12 months, 18 months, we're treading on eggshells to make sure everything's okay. And the press, he says one wrong thing and the press are jumping down his back neck. Oh, Tottenham, what's going on at Tottenham? We don't need that anymore. We need stability. We need a comfort blanket. We need a manager who wants to be here, is going to work with the youngsters. Like today, even Ryan Mason giving a 17-year-old a debut, giving a 20-year-old a debut. We need managers that actually there's going to be a pathway and a transitional period from the youth team, the under 21s to the first team. There hasn't been that in a long time. We need guys that are actually going to coach these players. Davinson Sanchez, I mean, I hope he goes. I'm not trying to dig him up, but I'm just making an example here. He's a player that needs coaching. He's a player that has just been, unfortunately, left behind through the different managers, different systems, no one really working with him. He was a good defender when he came here, one of the best young centre-backs in Europe, and obviously 3, 4, 5 years of not being coached, not being managed well, and he's obviously fell down the pecking order, lost his confidence, and lost some of his ability. He's played the last couple of games. He's been okay, but this is a guy that when he did start and played consistently, he was a good centre-back. But we need a manager that's going to work with players, wants to be here. Yeah, so I do think, having a week to work on structure, tactics, shape, ethos, culture, these are all things that we've been missing for a long time. And I do feel that with that right time, and like Lee said, I mean, we need domestic trophies. It's been way too long. We need, obviously, to be much better in the league. We finished 8th, 1 point off 7th. As it all stands, we only finished 2 points. When I looked at the table just now, we only finished 2 points off Brighton in 6. Only 2 points. Look how many games we've thrown away this year. So it was there. It was always in our hands. When Conte did his crazy run, we were 3rd or 4th. We were comfortably in those positions for a long time. We only have ourselves to blame. As good as Villa has been, as good as Brighton have been, we should have been and could have been better than them and finished above them.
Well, I mean, Patrick, we get what we deserve, don't we?
Yeah, exactly.
So, we get what we deserve, and that's the right thing. It is the right thing to give. We had the best ever start to a Premier League season after 10, 11 games this year. Crazy. 23 points after 10 games, 2.3 points per game in the Premier League. That was higher than any other season, higher than 86 points total that we got under Pochettino when we gave Chelsea a title race. Yeah, we totally shot ourselves in the foot 100%, and we have to take that on the big wet fish slapped in your face, take it on the chin, got to go again.
we've got to be realistic of where we are right now. We can't, like you said, I'm tired of papering over cracks. I'm tired of making excuses. We need this has been a real punch to the gut, a real reality check, a reality shot. And now it's time to address the issues so they don't happen again. And yes, a rebuild and a reset is uncomfortable and it's hard, but it needs to happen. And now's the perfect time. The crazy thing is we finished on 70 goals, so the 5th most amount of goals. So if only we could keep a clean sheet or 2, we would have been way higher up the league. But the crazy thing is only 5 teams conceded more goals than us. We conceded 63 goals and we scored 70 goals or something like that. So I think our goal difference is 6 or 5, which is crazy. How can you score 70 goals and then still concede that many? Mental. So yeah, we deserve to be where we are. It's been a horrible season, but sometimes these things need to happen. Sometimes you need to take 2 steps back to take 1 step forward, but it's whether the board will actually act and react to this. No more hiding, no more excuses. We've all seen Daniel Levy's flipping last, comments in the last brochure at home. A lot of fluff, but if he really believes in what he said, now's the time to act.
Agree. Chris, let's come over to you. Look, I don't normally jump straight into any comments that have come out straight after a show. Normally what I try and do, as everyone knows, is we work our way through the game and obviously discuss, and then we bring up those comments. But I do just want to bring up the fact Harry Kane has just spoken to BT Sport, in which he was obviously asked about his future. He said, it is part and parcel of being a footballer, speculation about leaving, especially when you are at the top of your game. I have focused on this season, helping the team as much as possible. I'm now just looking forward to a nice break and some games with England. So I think naturally with Kane, he's not one that would normally come out and ever really overcommit his future to the club. But when you look at the fact that for him today, a couple of goals, it ends the season on 30 goals for Harry Kane. We'll come into some of the other amazing stats that he's achieved throughout this season. But I'd love to know, Chris, what do you think Harry Kane is thinking on the back of the result today, Spurs' overall finish, and where he sees his future at the moment without a manager and without a director of football at the moment?
Well, I think he's probably feeling very similar to how we are, lads. I think, he's a Spurs fan through and through. He's committed his whole career to the club. He's been carrying us on his back for however many seasons now. Like, honestly, the man is unbelievable. He is pure world class, best player I've ever seen to play in a Tottenham shirt. Possibly, top 5 in the world. Like, he's unreal. Like 30 Premier League goals in a season to not win the Golden Boot is absolutely unreal. Like, what is going on there? Like, Haaland's an alien. He shouldn't be allowed to play. But like, Harry deserves so much more. Like, he's going to get that Premier League record. I think that's what his next target is. So I think it's a weird one because I think he needs more. He deserves more. If he was to leave this summer, obviously we'd all be absolutely devastated and we'll probably get bloody relegated next year because we're shit. But like, I think where's he going to go? Right? He wants that record. He wants that goal record. He wants it. 2 seasons he'll probably have it. But like, City, not happening. Got Haaland. Arsenal, never happening. Who else up there? Newcastle. I mean, Newcastle United, potentially, but it's like, that's like a sidestep, It's like,
they've got kind of good strikers for now. I mean, I think the concern might be next summer rather than this summer.
Exactly. I can't see him going there anyway, because arguably, are they that much higher than we should be? Say we get a good manager, a good structure, we could push for them again. You'd like to think. I mean, Chelsea and Poch, God, that'd be a nightmare, wouldn't it? Jesus Christ. But I mean, I everything I'm reading and everything I'm seeing looks like he's hopefully going to stay for one more season at the very least. Yep. Maybe leave on a free, and if he does, I'll tip my hat to him. Fair play. Like, what can we do to, we can't say otherwise. But fingers crossed, we get a manager, build a culture, get a positive environment around the club, start building something, and hopefully he feels the positivity and feels like he wants to be a part of it. And maybe we can even coax him into signing a new contract. Who knows? Yeah,
I agree. I mean, Lee, if I can come over to you and Harry Kane. Go for it.
Quickly, just if I can interrupt with that one, Chris, what you just said there about, couldn't begrudge him. Depends where he goes. And that's the reality. Like, it depends where he goes. Because if he walks away on a free and goes to Chelsea, I don't think most of the fan base will be accepting of that. Obviously, if he goes to Arsenal, does a Sol Campbell, There's no way on earth that, I'm not saying there's no way on earth he'd do it. I don't think he would, but there's no way on earth that we would accept that. If he goes away on a free to Manchester United, I don't know, that's quite hard to take as well. They've had a few of ours as well, haven't they? Teddy Sheringham, they've had Berbatov, they've had Carrick, you know what I mean? The list goes on. So, I'm not sure. I think the only way that I suppose we could, from my perspective as a fan, is if he went abroad, and he's definitely not going abroad. That's why his options are so limited. I think the best option for the club and for Harry and for us fans is if he's going to stay, why doesn't he sign an extension on that contract, give everybody some really amazing news, like for us to get excited about before the summer shit show is about to happen, and then put a clause in that contract to say that if one of the big ones come in for an X amount of money, that you can go. Because I think that as a fan, does it matter if we get 0 money for him or 100 million for him? Does it matter? Because actually, like you just said, without Kane in that team, I see him dropping deep today against Leeds and spraying balls about like he was just playing on a park. I mean, the bloke's got absolutely everything. He's a number 9, he's a number 10. We know this. Like he's number 8. So the fact of trying to replace him there's no point trying to replace Harry Kane. I don't think he can be replaced, but you have to replace him with 1 or 2 players. Rumours Maddison might be coming. If Maddison comes in, we've got our number 10. Do we then go out and get a nice, brilliant striker? Isaac, for example, Newcastle found Isaac for 40, 50, 60 million quid or whatever it is. There is players out there that can go and score amazing goals. I'm not saying that they're going to be Harry Kanes, but life does go on after Teddy Sheringham did, after Dimitar Berbatov, after Defoe, after King, and life will go on after Kane. But if Kane rocks up at Chelsea, I'm personally, me as a fan, I can't have that. I cannot have that.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Him breaking the record in the blue or in the red, God forbid, of Arsenal, even in United, like they always get everything. Why are they going to take our record from us? It's our record as well as Kane's. Does that make sense? That's the way I feel.
Yeah, I agree. I do agree.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, what I do want to bring it on to, Pat, we are waiting for Ryan Mason to come out and hold what many will feel will be his final press conference as acting Spurs head coach. Of course, look, we don't know where this summer's going to take us so far. I mean, the job has not been taken up as of yet. It's vacant. Ryan Mason has been speaking a lot about DNA, a lot about club culture, and the fact that he's given, I think, 2 players their debuts today. I think it was definitely a massive priority, I think, of Ryan's, that as soon as that scoreline became at a point where he felt Spurs are definitely going to win the game. And we've been here before when Spurs have been 4-1 up and you're not sure. But listen, we were a couple of minutes to go. So I think you could safely say the game was in the bag. We did see a couple of debuts where I'm going to bring it on to. But Pat, in relation to the team, which I'm going to bring up on the screen here for our viewing audience. So it was just the one change for Tottenham Hotspur today. So the team that Spurs went with, of course, had Forster, Royale, Sanchez, Longley, Davis, Basuma, Skip, Pedro Porro, Kulusevski, Kane and Son. That bench, again, you look at that bench, Austin, Abbott, Tanganga, Craig, Sarr, Santiago, Danjuma, Lucas, Richarlison. Any surprises in there for you at all, Pat? Is that what you're roughly expecting, given we've heard the last couple of weeks of the number of injuries Spurs have got in the camp?
Yeah, no, I thought that was a good lineup, to be honest. I didn't look at it and think, oh my God, what's he doing now? Or how's that going to work? The lineup looked good. It was exactly what I expected. We know Højbjerg's out. We know Romero's out. It made a lot of sense for me. I'd like to see Kulusevski starting and getting minutes. Son and Kane obviously make sense. Pedro Porro, offensively, he's looked really good. Sometimes we can question some of his, defensive attributes or how he can get caught out. But all in all, a very good attacking player. We saw today some good moments from him. And for me, Basuma, you're starting to really see the quality that he can bring. It's taken a while. The season's ended now. But we saw today, for me, he was the best player on the pitch in the first half. The guy was just literally everywhere, just oozing class. He was dictating tempo with the game, making passes, getting on the ball, not hiding from it. And you even saw him. Sometimes we were being a bit rash at the beginning of the game, and he was the one telling the lads to calm down and just take it easy and just, let the flow of the game come to them. So really good. Davison Sanchez was decent. Ben Davis played quite well. All in all, I thought it was no one really got caught lacking or, really let themselves down. Skip again, I don't want to dig him out, but in the first half, in the first 16 minutes, he got dispossessed twice, just dwindling on the ball, just not being decisive enough and get caught we got caught in possession. Luckily, Leeds didn't have the quality of ruthlessness to punish us on those, mistakes. But other than that, it was a good lineup. I would have liked to see Danjuma play, but it kind of made sense. The game was still in the balance at 3-1. It made, I understand why Lucas Moura came on, and obviously, I'm sure we're going to touch on it, but that goal, that was brilliant. And that's what we'd like to see. It's taken a while to see Lucas do that again. But yeah, what a way to end. And even you saw how emotional everyone was, the fans, the whole bench, everyone ran on to like lift him up and celebrate with him, because he's a lovely guy and everyone loves him. It's just a shame that this year he has kind of let himself and the team down in moments, the red card against Everton, being caught or making that bad pass against Liverpool when we had fought so hard to get back into the game. So those things have overshadowed what we knew was going to be the last couple of games for him. But yeah, what a goal, what a run. And the way he then sent the keeper the wrong way and just slotted it coolly, it was brilliant.
This is part of the reason why, though, isn't it? Lads, listeners, viewers, right? This is part of the reason why the bad management of the squad rotation this season and the back end of last season as well. Maybe you could say that we didn't rotate because we couldn't rotate last season. But this year, if Lucas gets more game time at certain points, he probably doesn't make them mistakes that he makes. I mean, it's all buts and maybes, right? But it probably doesn't. But you look at Man City, because of the squad they've got and the unbelievable players they've got, Pep doesn't drop players. He rotates all of the time. Like if you don't play Grealish, you play Foden, or you fancy a bit of Mahrez on that side, or drop. You've got so much depth. And Antonio Conte last summer was always about depth. It's a miracle, absolute miracle. We got on the top four, which looks likely it was a miracle considering where we've now finished. This season, I need more players, I need more depth, and we need more depth. And then we got more depth, regardless. In hindsight, whether or not you think they're good enough or not, we got more players and we got more depth, and then he never played them. Like he didn't play Jed Spence whatsoever, and just pushed him out. And that was a club signing scenario, as we know. He didn't play Danjuma at all. Stellini didn't really play Danjuma, and then even Ryan Mason really hasn't played Danjuma. It's been an utter waste of his time. He may as well have gone to Everton and scored like 15 goals. Because it's been a waste of his time. So the and this is what I'm talking about in terms of that rebuild piece as well, and the playing staff and in the footballing side. Do you agree, guys, gents, viewers, listeners? Because if Lucas plays a few more games or a bit more games, you look on social media. Why are you playing Lucas? He's rubbish. He has been. He's only scored a hat trick once. What's going? The whole vibe, the whole negative vibe that I've been part of as well, by the way, throughout the whole season. It's been so toxic to everyone. Does Lucas make the mistakes if he's getting better minutes throughout the season? We've got 5 substitutes. Most of the top coaches campaign heavily for 5 substitutes. Do you know how many times we've made 5 substitutions this season? Like, it's less than like on one hand. It's less than 5. Couldn't make it up, could you? Less than 5 substitutions. It's the problem, isn't it? Do you see where I'm coming from, though? And some will argue, well, we ain't got the squad and we've been hit. And that's a fair point. You can't sub on players that think. But if you've coached the club in the right way, if you've got the right players, you've got the right mentality, the right vision, everyone's on the same page, they're all pulling in the right direction. If you've got all that sorted, you should be able to bring on, a youngster or whatever in that position, and they will still be able to do a job. People will say about, what about Sarr? Look at Sarr, right? He came on against or played the full 90 against AC Milan. He was absolutely brilliant, right? I think everybody would suggest he was. Yeah. He made that mistake. You could say against Southampton.
Yeah, the penalty.
And he's killed him. He's killed him. He ain't played properly since, and he's come in ifs and buts, and he's not been great. So I think the whole management, the coaching management piece obviously is going to be looked at, but it has to be. And I think that goes back down to the point you're making, Patrick, about the mistakes that Lucas made. Does he make them? Maybe he does. Maybe he does make them, but does he make them if he's had more football? And I bet there's a higher percentage chance he doesn't make them if he has higher football. And that's why it's about getting people not minutes for minutes' sake, which is what's happening. Better play him, give him 5 minutes here at the end or whatever it is. It's about getting them feeling part of something throughout the season. Do you get what I'm saying? And we just haven't done that. But since Conte started, we haven't done it.
No, I massively agree on that. I mean, look, Chris, in the past, we've bemoaned this Spurs side for not starting fast. And isn't it ironic, again, that we're in a situation where it comes to the last day of the season, with no disrespect, not a huge amount riding on it, that Spurs did actually start fast, did take the lead. It was the worst possible start for Leeds United. That, I'll be honest with you, coming into the game, I was really expecting almost a raucous atmosphere at Elland Road and a real sense of belief, determination that Leeds are going to come at us early and feel they've got to score early to put the pressure on Leicester and Everton. It never materialised. Spurs got themselves in front, and it just felt that as soon as Spurs got themselves in front, there was always an acceptance from Leeds that they weren't ever really going to get back into the game. So, given the fact of how the season's gone, and I know, of course, that it's not been a season we've all wanted, was it quite pleasing, Chris, to see Spurs actually start a game fairly fast?
Of course. My God. We've been waiting for it, haven't we? I mean, it was really strange. Like you say, at the start of the match, the Leeds fans were obviously buzzing. They were, getting behind their team. They really needed a win. I felt like we could have really tripped up on ourselves today. It felt dangerous. But as soon as that first whistle went, it felt like we were almost looking in the mirror. It was like, are we playing against ourselves? Like, do you know what I mean? We actually scored a goal within 2 minutes. And it was a pretty quality goal as well. Don't get me wrong, Leeds were defending terribly. So, like I say, a bit like us this season. But, I mean, after that goal, it did look a bit dodgy. I feel like Leeds were their own worst enemy a little bit. They created way more chances than we did in the first half. I think they had 9. I think we had 4. They just couldn't finish, could they? Like, I think they... I mean, I feel sorry for them. I think they're a great club. They've done some good stuff the last few years. I feel like sacking Jesse Marsh was a mistake for them. It's been downhill since then. They're a big club. It's a shame they're in the Championship. But I feel like once again, it's like us. Their league position reflects on them. They are where they deserve to be at the end of this season. I mean, as a whole, yeah, we played pretty well. Like, I mean, Kane speaks for himself. Incredible. Like, he literally. Both goals, he was never going to miss. We've seen him in that position 100 times, 1,000 times even. He's going to score every time. You never doubt him. Also, he's incredible for the second goal. Like do you see that little flick over the Leeds player in the midfield? And then he muscled off 2 or 3 players.
Yep. Lovely
ball into Porro, which, by the way, amazing finish across the goal. Like Porro, honestly, other than Kane, I think he's my man of the match. I think he played incredible all match. Like he's been such a great threat towards the end of this season going forward. I think he brings creativity, he brings chaos. He's quick. He can actually deliver a ball. He can take a set piece. I think next season with a pre-season and a good manager, some good coaching, he could really come good next season. I hope. And he seems to be getting a good partnership with Kane as well. Kane seems to be pinging it out onto the wing. Porro crossing it back in like we saw a couple of weeks ago. Kane scoring that header. I mean, the rest of the team, I'd echo Pat. I think Basuma was unreal today. I think he's since he's come back from his injury, he's been next level. It's like the shackles have been released since Conte's gone. I think the idea of having Basuma and Bentancur in the midfield together, I think is quite exciting. If they can have a full preseason together and build up a nice partnership, I think we got something quite exciting there in theory.
Yep, I do agree. Yeah. I
mean, also who else? I think you were talking about Sarr just now, boys. I think Sarr looked great when he came on. He doesn't look out of place at all.
I thought it was a really bright performance from a guy that really, I felt really sorry for him that he's not had more of a look in, especially since you would say Mason got the job. I mean, I don't know what it's been down to really. Lee, I do just want to get your reaction to Ryan Mason's comments to the press. He's come out and said we had a job to do today and all we could do was come here today and win the game in difficult circumstances. We did that and I think we were a good value for it as well. We scored some really, really good goals, but also defended our box really well. So I was pleased with today and how it went. Obviously, the bigger picture is it's a disappointment over how the season has gone as a whole because we've finished outside of Europe for the first time in a long time. We need to make sure that doesn't happen again. A comment in here saying Ryan Mason only won 33% of his games in charge this second time over. I'm intrigued to know from you, Macca, if I can, what your thoughts have been on Ryan Mason this time around. Do you feel for Ryan's sake that he'll probably move on when that next manager will be appointed, or do you think you will favour seeing Ryan still in amongst the coaching staff if and when that new appointment does come, whenever that might be? Who knows with this football club?
Who knows, my man, bro? Who knows when that is happening? But look, what I would say about Ryan is that he was thrust into the last time around 6 days before cup final. Absolutely despicable decision to throw anyone under the bus in that type of scenario, but. In the long term, that's going to give Ryan some brilliant experience. I mean, I think he has done this time around. I think last time we won 4 out of his 6 games in charge.
That's right, yeah.
And unfortunately, this time around, his record isn't as good. But what I will say in the positive side is that he's thrown into that chaotic mess. Why give it to Stellini if you're going to give it to Mason, 3 games later? You may as well have given it to Ryan in the first place. And we might have had a bit of better football. What I would say is that I know we got outplayed last week in the second half against Brentford, but we had 8 shots on target against Brentford, which a lot of people kind of, went over their head, including mine, because ultimately, we lost the game. Don't mean nothing. Today we had 7 shots on target. So that's 15 shots on target in the last 2 games. Previous to that, it was only 2 against Villa and only 3 against Crystal Palace. So when you look at that change, or I'm trying to highlight here, and I'm trying to get to the positives, right? We've been so negative so many times. So I'm trying to be on the positive. You can see the way he's trying to move, take away that stagnant, rigid way of playing and trying to play, in a more attacking, advanced way. With limited experience on the coaching side, not from him, but from on the training pitch, and also with the players that he's got, with the injuries that we've got. You could totally argue this, and this would be a fantastic debate down a pub. But the reality is, if we had a Basuma fully fit with a Bentancur, like Chris has just mentioned, and someone in the comments mentioned it as well, imagine adding a Maddison there. If we had a Richarlison that was fully fit, and we've had Richarlison's had injuries this year, Son's been totally off it. Bentancur's done his ACL. Basuma's had a very, very bad ankle injury. We've had Romero in and out. We've had Kulusevski's been shocking compared to his standards last season. If all of them were on fire like they were that we've seen previously, coached by a Ryan Mason, we could be in I know it's if buts and maybes, but I suppose the highlight I'm trying to say is that we could be in a very different place. I don't think Ryan's a bad coach at all. I just think that the job that he has to do, or the next coach coming in has to do, is one that is gigantic proportions, in my opinion, and I don't think he's ready for that right now. But from a coaching standpoint, I think we've missed, and this is quite bold of me to say this, right? I believe, but I think we've missed players being coached for the last 3 managers. I don't think Conte, I don't think Jose, and obviously Nuno coached the players as well as what we've had in the past. And I think what happened last season to get us in the top 4 was amazing, and we were loving it. I think Conte's drilling and just making things happen and driving people got them to that point, but they couldn't sustain that. It's not sustainable, and that's what we've seen this year. Whereas actually with a proper coach, getting players to do things in a way, and I just don't think that's Ryan right now. And I think that's why when we are looking for this new manager, and when the board decide this is the way the club's going to be, this is who we want to be, which is the first thing, Daniel leaving the board. Come on, people, you know that I think this. Once you've got that bit right, you can then start to say, right, what philosophy of manager you want? And we want a manager that's going to be able to coach. And that's why when people are turning their noses up at Graham Potter or turning their noses up at other managers that have got a good record in coaching, we should just have a think about it and step back and go, well, hang on, that's what we need, right? We need a coach to get to be able to coach these players. We also need somebody that's going to say, no, you're not good enough, or you're not for me, or no, you don't fit the culture or the values of this football club, you've gone. No, and again, I don't think that the gravitas of a Ryan Mason at this stage of his career can do that, Rick. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah, I do agree. I mean, in regards to the first half, I'll be honest with you, it's one of those games where there wasn't a huge amount in terms of discussion points, really. Of course, actually, Leeds went very, very close straight after Spurs scored, naturally, because that's the way Spurs have been this season. There was a big chance, actually, for Kulusevski, which broke up the pitch, and all we had to do was play Son through, but he underhit the pass. We saw Forster tip over a looping Wobber header. And then when Spurs started the second half, as they began the first, Pat, it was a lovely moment of quality again from Harry Kane as he drove up the pitch. His ball through was actually missed. It ran into the path of Pedro Porro, who ran onto it, finished really well, 2-0 to Spurs. And a lovely stat, actually, on Pedro Porro. When you look at the most goals and assists combined for Spurs since Porro joined on that 31st of Jan, you got Kane at 15, Son at 9, and then Porro at 5. Now, many would argue, well, that just shows you how poor Spurs have been. I may want to reverse that and say, look how positive Porro's been. I know many feel when he first came in, he was very much not good enough defensively. But I have seen some really, really positive signs in the last few weeks that, as Lee referenced, under a coach that can actually bring this player onto another level, I think we've got a really exciting fullback there. And then when you add to that, or should I say wing back, when you add to that, you've got Jed Spence to come back. And then again, another manager might look at the likes of Sergio Reguilon, who they feel, again, could be coached. Spurs have actually got some really exciting wing-backs to come into the club. And that's before you don't forget, obviously, Destiny Doggy coming as well. So do you think that's one of the positives, Pat, in what's been, let's be honest, about a disappointing season?
Yeah, definitely. And like I said, and like Lee alluded to, like even like, you know, my point about Davinson Sanchez not being coached for the last three managers, that's the same with all of these guys. And it will at some point catch up on you. Last year, we kind of, you know, I don't say lucked up because we deserved to finish in the Champions League spot because, you know, we went on a great run and Arsenal obviously collapsed. But over the course of a couple of years, it's not always going to work that way and you will get found out. And yeah, Pedro Porro was a lamb to the slaughter in his first game, I think, which was against Leicester, when we ended up getting beaten 4-1 or whichever it was. And then, you know, a lot of people called him out, said he's not good enough and never make it, which was really rash after one game. And even one of our own old managers called him out and said a lot of stuff about him. And then Pedro Porro obviously went on Instagram and his socials and said, you know, it's unfair, but he takes on the chin and they grow from it. And you're now seeing him, you know, I think he's a fantastic, exceptional attacking player. Yes, as a full back or a wing back, you will also be asked to defend. So we kind of got this Trent situation where going forward he's fantastic, but defensively we do know he has to get better, and I'm sure he will be working on that. But that finish, I mean, no one's really, I know Chris, you mentioned it, that was a fantastic finish, because when he took the shot, I was thinking, what are you doing? You're not going to score from that angle. And it went in, I nestled in comfortably. So yeah, you got to give him his credit, man. And obviously he did the celebration. He's got balls to do that away against Leeds.
Yeah, I like him, man. I like him.
I was like, wow, you got some front on you to do that, man. Knowing the situation and the grounds, and you just hear all the boos and people go, you F it. You know, it's like, well, yeah.
He does love it, doesn't he? He loves all that. On Insta and all that, he absolutely loves it. And just to add to that as well, I think one of the key things you mentioned about a good coach and whatever, I think one of the key factors, and I have to bring this guy up, is Emerson Royale. Because since the bloke's come back into the team and playing on that right side centre back or a full back so the system he's playing is sometimes like in possession, out of possession, we're playing 4 or 3, right? So if we're playing a 3 and Emerson Royale's at a right side centre back, then Porro can bomb forward and does his thing, because you're right, he's a right wing back, and I think that's important. I don't think that we're going to start Pedro Porro in a back 4 as a fullback. I don't think that's still ready yet. And with some time, some coaching maybe. But Emerson Royale has been a core part of being able to let Porro go and express himself further up the pitch. Would you agree? Because I just think that you're right. I think that Porro's got an amazing shot on him. I don't know what his stats are. I ain't got the blue book with me. I'm away. But you know, he's scored, 3-4 goals now? He's got 44 assists, and he didn't even start a game until the end of January, because we messed around trying to get his transfer done for like 58,000 days. Normal standard work. So you know what I mean? So I think when you look at that, he has been an integral part. And that's why getting all of the puzzle pieces together to build your team, to build the elite team. It's true, though, isn't it? Like when you get all the pieces of the puzzle together, that's when it starts to click. And I think that's why we need this huge rebuild in the summer.
Yeah, I mean, coming on to that, mention Lee rebuild, Ryan Mason has just come out and said, I think there's some huge decisions to make for the football club. First of all, it's to understand who we want to be and where we want to go going forward. Then it's realising who fits that, members of staff and also players as well. It's an important few weeks now, and hopefully we make the right decisions. I do want to pick up on one point, Chris, actually before the game, where, you know, Ryan Mason, you know, he's of course on the club payroll. And I'm sure he'll feel indebted to Daniel Levy to not only be given the job once, but twice in terms of being the acting head coach. So he's not going to come out and outly criticise Daniel Levy. But I'm keen to get your thoughts on if he genuinely feels, Mason, that he's got a role to play, because the way he talks, it feels like he has got a role to play for the future. Do you think Chrissy may hang around regardless of who that manager is next? Or do you think, given the fact that he's now had the opportunity twice, he may look to maybe, you know, ply his trade elsewhere potentially?
I mean, hats off to Mason, first of all. Obviously, no one in their right mind would take that job when he was there. Like he was completely out of his depth. And I think, honestly, he's done a really, really good job. I think taking some of those players and actually putting an arm around them, trying to put a bubble there and actually make it a positive atmosphere to play in. I think has been a really, really big part from him. And I think that's a real positive foundation we can take into next year with the new manager. And I think that's so important. And hats off to Mason for that. I think a lot of his comments, I think he is genuinely Spurs through and through. So he's a fan just like us. So he wants the best for the squad. He wants the best for the team. He wants the best for the club. He wants the best for the players because he arguably he should still be playing. But like I think as a selfish Spurs fan, I think he is a really good influence around the squad. So if he stays, absolutely, I welcome him back to be on an assistant between whoever's next. I don't think he's right. Obviously, he needs more experience. But for what's best for him, I think he should go. I think he should go to the Championship. I think he should cut his teeth. I think he should do a Vincent Kompany and go and show people what he can do. Because I do believe one day he will be a very good manager. And fingers crossed, he'll come back to Spurs and maybe do really good things, and it'll be great. And we'll be singing he's one of our own. But for next season, I think that we need to find the right manager who's ready to build a project. I think the boys were just touching on. I think there's some decent players in there. Like there's been a lot of injuries. There's been a lot of people off form. Like there's a lot of people coming back. Like if there's a clean slate with a new manager, I think there's a lot of exciting players we can look in there. Like Kane, Bentancur, Basuma, Romero, Kulusevski, Son if they get form back again. I mean, Richarlison, he scored the goal of the tournament in the World Cup, for God's sake. Yeah. Like, surely this is just a bedding in season and he'll come back stronger next year, hopefully. Like the defense needs work. Wing backs, Porro, Spence. I mean, even Emerson. I was going to say today, Emerson and Porro seem to be picking up a really good partnership. I think they're working really well together. And I was even seeing Emerson move into midfield a little bit to make a 3. Did anyone else notice that?
Yeah.
It's almost a bit like what Arteta and Pep have been doing. And I think he's doing really well in that position.
Yep.
So
what's interesting? On Pedro Porro, if I can maybe stick with you on this, Chris. Mason was asked if maybe potentially he could become a winger on a more regular basis in the future. He said probably because he affects the games of football. He scores, he creates goals. I thought his performance was excellent going forward. He also had that discipline in helping, which actually I think noticed that as well. Yeah, I think he's definitely improved that over the course of the last few games. He said the team, from a defensive point of view as well, he's massively helped. We're really, really pleased with his impact. We know it's a very difficult period to come into the Premier League halfway through a season. I think his character and personality has allowed him to be some sort of a success. So big words there from Mason. I think, Chris, you probably back us here, as we've all said, that it could be a big next season for Pedro Porro, providing they get the right kind of manager that can come in and actually coach the players to get better, as Lee alluded to there, Chris.
I agree. I think he's been a massive influence in that dressing room since he's come in. I think he's built up a bigger partnership with Kane, Kulusevski as well, Emerson down that side. I think, the fact Emerson sat in there has given Porro so much freedom to go forward. And I think when he was at Sporting, I think he was one of the leaders in their dressing room. I think he was one of their better players. And I think he took penalties for them as well. And all these other crazy, like he was a real role model in that. And he's only 23. Yep. So I think he's got a really big future ahead of him. And I think he could, fingers crossed he comes really good at Spurs.
Yeah. Pat, let's come over to you to get the negative out of the way. Always coming to you to get the negatives out of the way. You mentioned earlier, Pat, about the goals conceded. And Spurs really were at it again. Leeds did get a goal back. Harrison sent a shot through Davis's legs and right into the corner. That was just before Sarr replaced Kulusevski. But again, this is probably the last I can be critical this season, Pat, so I'll go for it. Ben Davies standing off his man, making a tackle for far too long. Almost a carbon copy, as we saw, Pat, up at Brentford last weekend.
Exactly. And I came on here after the Brentford goal and I said that Fraser Forster getting beaten, getting down too low, and people said I was a bit harsh and the shots were good. It was a good shot again today, but a bad keeper saves that. And I'm sorry. I like Fraser Forster. I think he's a good goalkeeper, but the better quality goalkeepers save that. They tip it round, they get a hand to it. They do a bit better in those situations. But also, in front of him, a better defender, like you said, gets a bit tighter to the man and doesn't allow them to take that shot. So Chris made a good point about, a new manager having a clean slate. My only I'll put an asterisk next to that, a clean slate, but needs to be ruthless. So that means the players that are crap or not good enough, no more, let me just take a look at them and see how they do. You should know by doing your homework and research the crap players that need to go. Don't give them another chance in a clean slate. A clean slate is for the talented players or the ones that have promise and potential, not your Ben Davises, your Eric Dyers. People might say I'm being harsh with Ben Davis, but we've seen enough of him over the last 6 or 7 years to know this is it. He's a steady Eddie, but we need better. Dyer, Sanchez, the list goes on in terms of from the defensive standpoint. Even Tanganga, who showed promise when he was younger, he's no longer a young player. Unfortunately, we're a bit stupid with the Tanganga one because we should have let him go out on loan a few times and we didn't. For whatever reason, we always stopped him going out on loan and we never played him. So it's literally like a double-edged sword. You've got a talented youngster on your bench, but it was at that crossroads where you become either a young or a good player. And because he didn't get played and we just left him on the bench and he was only thrown in high-pressure situations when people were injured, he didn't really get the time to nurture and develop. And now he's almost a bit too old to be considered a young player. And now when you look at him, you're like, you're not that good. You're not good enough. But it's our fault because we didn't let him develop. He would have been a top player.
Bang on. Bang.
Yeah, agreed completely.
We fucked ourselves on that one. It's so stupid.
Yeah.
So,
can I ask you, Pat, as well, just on that point you're making there about the nature of how Spurs' decision-making has really let them down.
yeah.
I'm sure you've hit it on Last One Spurs so many times this season about our defensive decision-making has been so poor. We've conceded 14 goals against the 3 relegated sides this season.
Crazy.
I mean, does that say a lot, Pat, about where the priorities should be heading into the summer, regardless of the managers that comes in?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even know that stat. That's criminal. I mean, we conceded 1 today. It was 3 against Southampton the first time, wasn't it? Or the last time. And obviously over the course of this, that's
Leicester as well, 4 away at Leicester.
Oh yeah, Leicester. Yeah. Oh my God, yeah. Pedro Porro's first game. Yeah, it just goes to show. I mean, the fact that we conceded 63 goals, and if I'm remembering correctly off the top of my head, there was only 4 or 5 teams that conceded less goals than us. Even
4,
Everton, 4 now. Oh, yeah.
4, yeah. So, spot on. Everton 6. I was just going to say stats. I'll interact with you.
Yeah.
I've got the blue book. It's not here, but it's in my head. Everton scored. Conceded 6 less than we did, and they were in the bottom 4. Yeah. And then we're out of the rest of the teams, we are the only team in the top 15 to score, let in over 60 goals.
That's crazy.
In the top 15 of the Premier League. So you go through some of the Crystal Palace, Chelsea, shocking. Wolves, West Ham, absolutely shocking. Brentford, Fulham, just Brighton. All these have conceded less goals than us. I mean, it's just not acceptable.
Yeah. Unreal.
When you look at the other end of the pitch, we scored. I think we're in the top 5 for scoring.
Yeah, no, we're 5th. Yeah, 5th most amount of goals. Yeah,
which is mental. City got 94, Arsenal 88, Liverpool 75. Brighton 72, Tottenham 70.
Yeah.
So do you know what I mean? Like it's mental. You're doing the job. And again, when you look at the whole season, all of the statistics that start to fit in. This is why we've had first halves and second halves and up and down. Because you score 2, you let in 3, or you score 1, you let in 2, or you let in 2, you have to score 3. It's just been a complete and utter kamikaze, isn't it, Pat?
Yeah, it's been crazy. And that's why, like you said, we're beating teams 4-3, 3-2. But over the course of the season, that's not going to work. You're going to get...
Yeah. I think the nature of this... Yeah. You can laugh, Pat. I think someone put the bleep in there for us there.
Pat, you're in the same place as Lee.
I'll tell you what, they're connected.
Sorry,
it's the blue book vibes going on here. It's the blue book vibes going on. Harry Kane, guys.
8th in the Premier League.
Oh my God! Don't get the Jaegers on board. 8th in the Premier League. Where are we headed to? Or is that the celebrations for avoiding the Conference League on the Azerbaijan? My God. Pat. This is where the show's going. I'm calling you Cat now. It's Pat. Pat. Some crazy stats about Harry Kane out there. Of course, he's the first player to score in the competition's history 30+ goals in 2 38-game Premier League seasons. He, of course, this season ends with 38 games, 30 goals, 4 assists. I mean, when you consider that even today. 2 goals and an assist, 34 contributions in what's been, let's be honest, a really awful, dismal Spurs side. Pat?
Yeah, no, Kane, it's crazy. Sorry, I interrupted you. Sorry.
Yeah, no, fine. Kane, I mean, overall, where do we sit on Harry Kane very quickly? I know we discussed him a bit earlier in the show. Anything you want to add on Kane? Do we just see what happens in the summer?
Insane player. Like Chris, I mirror what he said, and I probably said it on here first. The best player I've seen in a Spurs shirt, hands down. Some people might think that's crazy, but bit too. Wait, Gareth Bale, I didn't really see the best of him. Me seeing him live, like going to games and watching them, for me, Kane's been the best comfortably. He's insane. I mean, I can't go on too much about this guy. Oh, I could go on all day, but I saw a stat saying he's now got 280 goals for Spurs. Crazy. And then, 4 assists, it's okay. He could probably do better, but then I've seen the amount of chances he's put on the plate for players this season and they've not finished them. He should have had at least 10 assists. Yeah, Son's missed about 6 hitters. Yeah, and I've seen Richarlison scuff a few. I've seen Perisic get into great positions and bobble a few and so on. So, I mean, to have 34 goal contributions in 38 games for Harry Kane, insane. Like, that's crazy. And, just a world-class striker. He does it season in and season out. And regardless of what's going on around, because, I mean, someone like Romero, who I think is an absolutely brilliant defender, talented kid, really good, but sometimes he lets what's going on around him affect his game. So when we're not good or things are going on, Romero's head's not in the game and he does something rash, no matter what's going on outside, Harry Kane's level is always up there. And if you get a few players like that, then obviously you can be onto something. So regardless of the shambles, managers, the this, the that, the noise, Harry Kane's always bringing his A game and he just zones everything out, tunes in and delivers on the pitch. So, yeah, I could never talk highly enough about Harry Kane. I hope he stays forever. I'm not one of these guys that want to sell our best player or our best asset. The rebuild should focus and be around Harry Kane. I don't need to sell Harry Kane to start my real rebuild. That's where I sit on that one.
For our listeners on audio, they've just heard from Lucas Moura, who gave a real heartfelt interview there as he, finishes his Spurs career with what was an incredible solo goal. Lee, as Pat alluded to earlier, he's been at fault for a couple of really poor moments in the season. That arguably is a reason why Spurs aren't playing in Europe next season. For those that are interested, of course, in the Conference League, I have to add, because not everyone wanted to obviously have Conference Europa League football. I think I've even tried to bring Europa League back into that. Europa Conference League football, of course. Lee, it was a lovely moment for Lucas Moura. He went on a lovely mazy run, past 3 players while dinking the ball over the keeper. I mean, even the subs run on and held him aloft in front of the fans. It was a lovely way to sign off. It's just a shame, Lee, it's not being done on the back of what's been a real successful season for the club. We're going to need to unmute now, Lee. This is the job now. He's been doing so well the last hour. Can Lee hear us? This ain't good. Lee, you got us? This is the quietest we've ever known Lee. We might have to let Pat take that and we'll bring Lee back. Hold on.
Yeah,
Lee's
for sure.
unmuted.
Just following up on Kane. If Kane's goals didn't exist, no, I think it's my signal again.
Going to say this season's finally shut him up.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
We got you.
We got you.
You got the Lucas Moura part? Did the Lucas question cut? Did you get the Lucas question?
He missed the whole. He missed the whole.
15 seconds.
We've got you, bud. Sorry, signal's terrible, honestly. I just wanted to follow on from the Kane thing. If we're to take Kane's goals out this season, yeah.
We've lost you, Lee.
We've gone from. Did he get the Moura question? I don't think you got the Moura question. Did you get the Moura question?
I got it. So, if just finishing off on Kane, if Kane's goals were out this season, I did.
This is like a time warp. He doesn't understand. Poor Lee, Lee's about 15 seconds behind.
Just finishing off on what Pat was saying with Kane. If Kane's goals were taken out of this season, we'd have minus 25 goals. We'll be in the bottom 5. We'll be in the bottom 5. I've got a more question. Yeah, I'm going to answer it now. Yeah. Oh my God, nightmare. So Lucas Moura, look, fantastic.
Yeah, you're cutting in and out, Lee.
Joe, I'm going to let Lee resolve his signal. I'm going to let Lee resolve his signal. I'm going to let you resolve your signal, mate. You just want to do maybe a quick log off and log back on.
So Lucas Moura.
You just go to Pat. Pat, I'm going to come to you. Lee might come back in a second. By the time we get this, it'll be Lucas going back for his retirement party. I tell you, it was a lovely, mazy run from Lucas. I think the goal would have meant a lot more, obviously, in the context if we had a more successful season. But Pat, a lovely way for Lucas to sign off.
Oh, brilliant! Like you couldn't write a better script. So fantastic. And the thing is, I've been harsh and critical on Lucas Moura this season. we all love him for what he did in Amsterdam. We all he's a likable guy. He's a lovable guy. Doesn't do anything wrong. He's been Spurs through and through. Always talks really positively about Spurs and reps as well. But there has been moments this season where he has been lacking and has just not been up to scratch. And I'm sure he knows that as well. But to end the way he did, it was a great run. And I was thinking, pass the ball. And he kept running. And then obviously the composure at the end and the way he finished it. And you just saw how much it meant to him and his teammates and all of the away fans. And it was just, it was a lovely moment. And I know Leeds went down and they got relegated, but it was nice to see that from the other side, that still what football can mean to somebody. And you can see that he's going to miss the guys and we're going to miss him. So, you couldn't have asked for a better subplot or end to the game. So, yeah, great to see, man. And it's a shame we didn't see more of that this season. That's my only gripe, because those kind of moments could have meant something in bigger games, because we know he's got that in his locker to do that, to just literally break lines and take people out of the game. He can dribble, he's got pace, but for whatever reason, just didn't really come off this year. But yeah, great to see, and no one can begrudge him what he's done for Spurs. But hopefully now he can, I don't know where he's going next, but we can bring someone in that can add to the team, and yeah, we can go again. But no, lovely guy and a great send off.
Yeah, no, I agree. Listen, he's a lovely, lovely guy. I mean, Lee, we'll try and come around to you again.
You nearly sent me off, boy.
Oh, dear.
No,
Ryan, mate.
Just quickly, for all the comments, I'm not at home, right? So if people are telling me to get new Wi-Fi, I'm not at home. I'm in an Airbnb, right, where I'm renting out in Yarmouth, right? So I've taken my my family down for a British break over the bank holiday, and I need to give a quick shout out, if I may, to a guy called Justin who come up to me today. I'm on Great Yarmouth Pleasure Beach, proper old school English holiday situation. Right? I'm taking my kids to see it for the first time. They're doing amusements and arcades and all that proper good stuff down at Yarmouth. And Justin comes up to me and says, "Lee McQueen, last one on Spurs. Absolutely love the show." I'm like, I couldn't make it up. We are truly everywhere, Rick, when you go down to Great Yarmouth, and we are getting shouts out. So massive shout out to Justin and his family. And to be fair, there was a lot of Spurs. There's quite a few Spurs down here today at the Pleasure Beach. So it's very good fun, really good fun. So quick shout out. But I just want to quickly say on Lucas, before you go over to Chris, Rick, and my signal dies, what the moment that he gave all of us in Amsterdam, and I was there in Amsterdam, and it was truly, Rebecca, she's got it bang on, 2p machines in Yarmouth. You're absolutely bang on with my kids were playing them today. I forgot what 2p's look like. I think they were on a 10p's. But the moment that he gave us in Amsterdam, right, was truly an emotion that I've never felt before. I'd never felt that emotion, and I know I don't want to get all steamy-eyed and whatever, who's cutting the onions, but I'm telling you, it was the weirdest emotion we all of us, or me and my mates we was with, and Nick and Coles and Steph and Crouchy. It was unbelievable moment that we all felt together, and we were crying like we couldn't believe it was happening. So just for that moment alone, the bloke needs to kind of be held in good esteem. And I'm like Pat, like you said, mate, I'm really pleased for him to score that goal today, because he is proper coys. Come on, Spurs! Come on, Spurs! Come on, Spurs! Coys! Exactly. I remember him.
Yeah. Lee, Maria Sanchez, are we ever going to see Lee ever finish the Kane comment?
On the Kane, yeah.
I thought it was a comment.
No, sorry. The Kane comment I was trying to say earlier when my signal was dropping is, if you'd have taken his goals out of our team this year, we'd have had a minus 25 goal difference, which is the bottom 5 goal difference in the league. So, Pep once said the Harry Kane team, he was probably right, certainly for this season, because the bloke's done everything that he can possibly. And, again, just he's, and Patrick, you said earlier about, the whole Gareth Bale piece and like Kane's the best player you've seen in Spurs shirt. Gareth Bale was absolutely unbelievable for one season, really. Maybe 2 seasons, but one season he was just off the planet. Whereas Kane has literally been so consistent since he broke into the team. I don't think. I mean, you said the stats earlier, Rick. Two times 30 goals in the Premier League and not won a golden boot. He's won a golden boot. What is it? 3 times or 2 times?
Three times.
Yeah, 3 times. The bloke is is unbelievable. And somebody said earlier, I think it was King Hoddle, he is the best player in the league. And something that really frustrates me and winds me up, and this isn't a dig, but this is a comment to the journalists and the football writers, whatever. Why has Kane never won the Football Writers Player of the Year award? Well, why not? Because he doesn't play for a top team, or do you have to win the league to win that trophy? And is that why the media always push that Kane needs to leave because he needs to win a trophy? This is a big issue, because the England captain can't play for Tottenham Hotspur, can they? Come on, let's be honest. The France World Cup winning captain, they can't play for Tottenham Hotspur, can they? Heung-min Son, the captain of South Korea and the best player in Asia ever, can't play for Tottenham Hotspur, can they? Do you know, World Cup winner Romero, he can't play for Tottenham Hotspur, can he? This is one of the points, right? That you know, take what you will, what I'm saying with this, but Harry Kane, the England captain, surely has to play for Manchester United. Surely he does. Surely he has to go and play for Man City.
It's it's always the narrative, isn't it? The narrative.
That's what I'm saying, buddy. That's what I'm saying. You know, so lay off it. No, from a Kane perspective, a Tottenham Hotspur, and also Lucas Moore as well, where we were coming from. You know, they've done some fantastic stuff for our football club. Lucas moves maybe back to Brazil or wherever he goes now, well playing. Hopefully, Kane sticks around and signs a new contract with us.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Some lovely words from Ryan Mason on Harry Kane. He probably doesn't get the appreciation he should. To get 30 Premier League goals in a season is incredible, especially in bouncing back from the World Cup. And again, we have to remind ourselves of that point. On Lucas Moura, Ryan Mason, some very nice words on Lucas Moura as well. Ryan Mason said, of course, on that lovely goal from Lucas that he deserved it. It's probably the kind of moment he'd been dreaming of last night, and thankfully he came on. He was in a position where he could help the team. The goal itself was outstanding, and we're all very, very happy for him. Now, the ending of that game saw Spurs introduce a couple of youngsters, to be said. One of them was George Abbot. It was a lovely, and it was another Tottenham debut today, obviously with Matthew Craig. Actually, a really big tackle for Abbott in those last couple of minutes. That might have gone noticed by some fans, but a really big tackle. And Matthew Craig was handed his debut. It may have been overshone a little bit by a streaker that came onto the pitch for Leeds United. So, look, again, his debut might not be remembered because they were currently trying to deal with that incident. But yes, he did come on and did make his Spurs debut. So Ryan Mason very firmly trying to embed some of the youth chances there for Spurs. I mean, in relation to him answering the chances for the job for him, as we look to close the show, he said, "I'm not sure. The discussions will happen in the summer and happen relatively quickly. I enjoy seeing young English managers in this country doing well. There's probably a perception that overseas managers are better, but I don't believe that. I really don't believe that." So Ryan Mason certainly, again, despite the fact, as we said earlier, only winning 33% of his games, certainly not what it would have, you felt, constituted to be really in the running for the Spurs job. But look, when he asked how he feels about looking back, he said, "When I go on my summer holidays, I would hope and expect that everyone inside of our training ground knows who I am, who my team, and who we stand for. The hope and the expectations that you guys and everyone else sees that too. I know I've done a good job, a great job. I really do. The circumstances were very difficult. I think anyone in the world coming into this situation for 6 games coming off the back of what had happened, and also the position we were in, was going to find it tough. Also, if you add into that being on an interim basis, when there was uncertainty, makes it even tougher. But we've stuck to what we believe in. We've transitioned a little bit, but I believe in a short space of time, and the players have responded. They've given everything, and ultimately, that's all I can ask." So, Pat, as we look to close the show, you'd almost say to some degree there, a rallying speech from Ryan Mason and almost endorsing himself to say that, look, the players have given absolutely everything for him. He seems to think that he might be in the running for the job, given those comments. How do you take them for you, Pat, as we look to close this one?
I like that he backs himself. Any manager worth their salt should believe in their abilities. I like that he's got the confidence to talk himself up and talk about young English managers. He's only 31. He's so young. But to be fair, he got thrown into the Dragon's Den or the Lion's Den, whichever you want to call it. But to only win 2 out of 6, 33%, not really good enough. I know he's had tough games. You had to play Manchester United, Newcastle and Liverpool. Tough games. And then a few relegation scraps as well. So, you know, he didn't get the rub of the green in terms of the fixtures. But at the end of the day, you're a manager. You're managing a big club. I should see better than 2 out of 6. But you're still young. You've not really managed that many games. You've got to learn your trade somewhere. So I do understand all of this, but I'm from the same notion as Chris. He needs to go to the lower leagues or even abroad and manage properly, away out of the limelight. Learn make some mistakes, try different things. I just feel like Tottenham, you don't really have the time to make the mistakes and learn on the job, as well as taking on such a big rebuild. There's so much going on, and then to also learn and develop yourself, because he doesn't really know his management style, his tactics yet, and all of this. It's just too much too soon for me. So as much as I like the fact that he's talked himself up and he's done okay, like there's definitely been a better brand of football. It definitely looks like the players have a bit more freedom and expression or space to express themselves on the pitch. But yeah, I would not like to see Ryan Mason as our new manager, and that's no disrespect to him. I just feel that we need better at this moment in time. It's such a big step now for us, the next step, and I just feel we need a good manager that knows what they're doing and is able to oversee a rebuild, be a good coach, bring in an attacking identity, also be good defensively, because Jesus Christ, we need to also learn how to defend. There's just so much going on, and I just think it's too much for Ryan Mason at this moment in time.
Can I just say, Pat, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on a more regular basis. I'm not sure if you've enjoyed it as much as we've enjoyed it, but we have enjoyed it, mate. And I was going to say, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on a more regular basis. He has been superb. And poor Pat is back for his sins, I think, over the summer with us. We've got a lot of shows planned. So, Pat, so everybody gets to recognise your face on a more familiar basis. Where can they find you across the socials? You'll be with us across the summer as well.
No, thank you. You're making me blush, man. I didn't expect you to say that just after my speech, so I appreciate it, man. I really do. But
it can all go wrong, Pat, because before I end it with you, I've got to ask you who you want as the next manager. So these nice comments that come in here, these could all go to shit, depending on what you say in the next breath of the moment.
Man. So who do I want as the next manager?
Based on where we are right now, who out there now, given that Slot has now distanced himself, signed a new contract? What's your thoughts?
Well, honestly, I just say go after Nagelsmann. Just really, like, I know he's talking about he wants to also be in charge of who the DOF is brought in. Just give him what he wants, not give him what he wants in a sense of course, there still has to be some flexibility from the club, but Nagelsmann fits and ticks all the boxes for me. He's young, he's hungry, he will actually is interested in the job. I do feel that he's also at the stage in his career where he's not going to feel it's below him like a Conte or a Mourinho did, or even maybe a Luis Enrique, who's kind of on the peripherals of the job. They thank you, Rebecca. They feel Luis Enrique may feel that he's kind of too big for Spurs. I want a manager who also will grow with the club, if you know what I mean. They're coming in at the same time and they're both on the upwards trajectory. So also Marcelo Gallardo, I keep banging that drum. Like, he's still there over in Argentina, fantastic manager. Some may not agree with it because he's never managed in Europe.
I did see a cheeky link, Pat, from The Athletic about him only the other day.
I did think there you go.
I mean, you're the one banging this drum at the moment.
Yeah. So, but for me, like, it has to be Marcelo Gallardo, Poch, or Nagelsmann. Poch hasn't signed that. I haven't seen anything.
He hasn't bang any drums, mate. Everyone picks him up.
Right. Again, depending on who you believe that he's done with Maurizio, he has signed that contract today.
Yeah,
the ink is dry. He will be the Chelsea manager.
Whether we,
I know.
You never know, but yeah. So for me now, it has to be Nagelsmann, man. I was kind of getting sucked into this Arne Slot hype. As you know, I was on the BBC Radio on Monday with the Dutch journalist, and he was talking a lot of good talk about Arne Slot. And then lo and behold, the next day, he then goes and signs a new contract. So I'm like, okay.
Pat, he's the Paulo Fonseca of 2021, because none of us at the time really wanted Fonseca. And the more we heard about him, we're actually getting to know this guy, and then boom, he's shut down.
Yeah, like, because the guy was talking so much good talk about him, and I was like, oh, okay, this is actually his name's Marcel van der Kraan, so he's a Dutch journalist, meant to be a Dutch, basically master expert in football, and he was honestly the stuff he was saying about Arne Slot. He was basically saying he's the next Pep Guardiola. So I was like, wow, okay, maybe I can get behind this. And then lo and behold, he rules himself out of the job. So I was like, this, because Marcel van der Kraan said that he definitely wanted to come to Tottenham. He was literally pushing for the move, yada yada yada, and obviously it didn't materialize. So yeah, for me, Nagelsmann makes so much sense. So just go and do it.
So Pat, Nagelsmann or bust for you?
Nagelsmann or bust for me. Yeah,
okay,
definitely.
We shall see. Chris, can I just say, mate, massive thank you for coming back on the show. Been a real pleasure having you on. I've really, really enjoyed it tonight. I'm sure I'm going to get you back on next season as well to join us. Just want to finish this quote with you with Ryan Mason. He said, I don't know what people think is the best because the best isn't necessarily the best option. The most important thing for the football club in any world is to have identity, know who you are and what you want to be and stick to that. Then I think you can employ people along with the way, people who fit into something as opposed to trying to make people fit into something and compensating. I don't think that works. That's the key decision. That's the big decision. And that's the commitment I think we need to make. So I think Mason's speaking very, very well there. And I know we've all said that we don't feel maybe he's the right man for the job well now, but he articulates himself very, very well. Chris, in the context of where we finished this season and obviously with Slot distancing himself and then signing a new contract with Feyenoord, who do you want as the next manager, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, echoing a lot of the stuff Pat's just been saying. I think first of all, I want to say, yeah, Mason, he's not ready for the job. One day, hopefully, he'll come back. He'll be really, really good. He speaks so well, and I think what you just read out then, I think I agree with the majority of what he's just said, because ultimately he's a Spurs fan. I think I mean, it's hard to name names. I agree. I was kind of on the Slot wagon. I've been reading up a lot about him. I think he was really good. He's fresh, he's exciting, he's hungry. The players like him. Like proactive, attacking, front foot, clever tactically, like pressing football, like solid, scores a lot of goals. I think like Nagelsmann for me is quite similar to Slot, and I think I would the dream would be Rangnick, director of football, and Nagelsmann as the manager. I think that would be absolutely ideal. But whether or not that happens, if Levy decides to pull his finger out or not, who knows? At this point, all that stuff I just reeled off, about the culture and the positive environment and the attacking football, that somebody, please, who can do that and pull these players together, give them a bit of coaching, spend some time with them and actually build something, win some games. Like, I think, there's the links to Postecoglou. I mean, I quite like the look of Ruben Amorim. He's quite cool. What's his name? Ruben Amorim. Sorry, can't speak. He looks quite, when we played Sporting, he looked quite exciting. He uses a lot of young players, front foot football, also uses the same formation that we've been playing with the three at the back. Also outside, I mean, I know he's been getting a heck of a lot of stick, and absolutely, why wouldn't he be? Because he was an absolute failure at Chelsea. But Potter, like, a year, 2 years ago, we all would have jumped at Potter. There's a good coach in there somewhere. He's good with young players. He's good at being a project manager, starting from the ground, building something. Maybe he's right. Maybe he's the right man. I don't know. I mean, Nagelsmann all the way.
Chris, been a real pleasure. Where can we check you out on the music scene, maybe?
Yeah. Once again, thank you, listeners and viewers, and Rick and the panel. Thank you so much for having me again. Honestly, it's been an absolute pleasure being on here. Great podcast. I listen to it even when I'm not on there. I love it. So I'm a musician. I'm in a rock band called Black Honey. You can check me out everywhere you find your music. So Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music, everywhere. Go check us out. We just got our third record out, got to number 6 in the UK charts and number 1 in the independent charts. So we're pretty buzzed about that. Thank you very much. And I've just got Twitter, so go follow me, Christ Oystler. Cheers, guys. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you, bud. Been a pleasure. Lee, it only feels right. Let's close it with you. It's been a difficult season, which at many points you said held so much hope. We all did. You started the season on here very vibrant, very excited. We all thought there was going to be such a real big excitement with Conte and, of course, trying to battle for not only Champions League, but actually, finally in that trophy drought. It hasn't happened. It's been tricky. You've been a massive, massive part. You always have been of last one on Spurs and all the way. Will you be, mate, enjoying having that little bit of having a bit of a break? I mean, I won't be stopping, but bless you, and you'll be here with me a lot of the times as well. We've got to come. But do you think the season's come at a good time just to kind of recharge and then see what these next few weeks hold in relation to the manager?
Yeah, for sure. And I think Pierre makes a point here. We have zero clue about dynamics and social psychology, do we? No, Pierre, you're completely wrong on that. But I tell you what, supporting this club through this season, it definitely has a problem on each of our psychology, that's for sure. So maybe where that comes from, Pierre. Look, I mean, for me, the next manager is simply pointless until you get the top things right. And then top things right is understanding what Mason's talking about. I find it very, very fascinating that Mason's talking about a vision and a culture and a plan. I find it fascinating that Harry Kane come out in 2 interviews recently and talked about that we've lost our way, we've lost our vision, and standards have dropped. I think that's very, very surprising. That people, senior figures within the club, the manager, the acting manager, the captain, the GOAT that is Kane, is coming out and saying them things. So I've had it on good authority as well that the club are working very, very hard in the background to try and sort this mess out. But I'm sorry, it's just not good enough so far, and we need to sort it out really, really quickly. I did put that tweet out about Big Ange coming in as soon as Scott Munn got appointed, because of the Australian. I put it out as a bit of fun. And all of a sudden now he's a front runner in the running. I mean, this is how the world of media works. This is the world of social media or Twitter works or whatever. Now, the fact of the matter is, you have to come in. The 37 players, they need to understand what our vision is, what are we doing, and where we're going. And if they're not on that train, on that crazy train, you get rid of them. It doesn't matter who they are. If they don't want to be at a football club and they don't fit in a football club, they've got to go. And that is what the new manager's got to do. On paper, it looks really sexy to have Ralph Rangnick and Julian Nagelsmann to come in on paper and do that job. But actually, I would have Graham Potter, or would have Brendan Rodgers or Ange or whatever, if they do the right thing for the football, via Mason even, to come in and say, right, this is where we are, this is what we're doing, and this is where we're going. Everybody from top to bottom is on the same train. Woo woo, train's leaving the station. And off we go, because that is what's missing at this football club. It's not a name. It's not a manager in name. It is a manager in principle. It is from the academy through the first team. It is from the top to the bottom. It is the values of this fine football club that we've lost. You tell me who Tottenham Hotspur Football Club is today, and it is vastly different to the team that I started supporting. And quite frankly, it is not good enough. So level it up. People at the top, you want to go data driven, use phoenix51.io, go and check us out, fair play. But no, if you want data driven decisions and you want to start driving the differences, looking at Brighton, looking at the Brentford model, whatever it is, make sure that you've got the right structure in place and get football people not only making the decisions, but making sure that they're the right people in the club. Technically, it doesn't matter if you are a world superstar footballer. If you're an arsehole, you shouldn't play for Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. If you don't fit into the culture, you shouldn't play for Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. Do you understand where I'm coming from? And that is the key point. I'm not sure I don't think an arsehole should play for Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, but the board might be okay with that. If that's their values and that's what they want, then that's fine. But we need to know what that is so we can get on the train. We can start supporting again, because we can't do that. So that's my piece on that. In terms of the actual manager, somebody that can come and unite that club under what them visions and values look like is the most important thing for me. And I just want to say, it's not finishing the show with me, Rick. It's finishing the show with you, because you are an absolute superstar. You have put these shows together every single week, 2 times a week, 3 times a week throughout the apps for the season.
Absolutely.
And you've been absolutely amazing. You've had a newborn as well into a family. And the work you put into Last One on Spurs Week is absolutely unbelievable. And if everybody had your work ethic and your desire to do well, then they would all be successful. So I just want to applaud you from that, Rick. And thank you again for having me part of this.
Rick for manager.
Oh, bless you. Thank you, bud. What an unbelievable speech there from Lee. So good that Enoch cut him and didn't let me finish it. Bless him. It has been I'd say, unbelievable show. I must say thank you ever so much for the wonderful contributors that have been on here tonight, and also throughout the season. We've had, again, a number of wonderful people that have taken their time out to come onto this show last minute, with notice, without notice. They've always made their time on Last One on Spurs. This show's had over 10 million plus downloads since it's begun, which is absolutely remarkable and tells you the absolute reach of Last One on Spurs. So I want to take this opportunity to thank all you wonderful, loyal viewers and listeners from 5-6 years ago that are still here with us today and are with us for the next part of the journey on Last One on Spurs. You'll be glad to know, some of you will be, we're not going anywhere across the summer. We've got so much more to come on Last Word on Spurs. So many more shows coming your way. So I want to say, look, with regards to the next manager, with regards to whoever that may be, it'll be covered here on Last Word on Spurs with wonderful guests like you see on your screen with Patrick, with Chris, and with the wonderful Lee McQueen that's signing out here. But from all of us here on Last Word on Spurs, guys, thank you so much for all of your incredible support throughout what's been a difficult season. Thank you for sticking with us through the good, the bad, and even the ugly at times. But on behalf of Pat, Chris, Lee, cracks that could and should have been here as well, guys, we've been the Last Word on Spurs. Keep safe, keep well, and we're going to